everybody understands probably what we're going to do is I'll start. I'm going to just talk about the legal process and what's going on in terms of the investigation and what we know at this point. And then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Brown, and he's going to discuss a little bit more about the specifics of the family and introduce the two members of the family that they've asked to speak on their behalf. One of whom is Santiago's older brother, president of the scene at the time.
Can you say all of that?
Yes, I will. I'm just going to give you an idea. Yeah, for the on the camera. And then Santiago's sister or aunt, basically, and the sister of the deceased Miss Adil. We're talking about her and the loss of the family that they're suffering from. Mateo is in school. That's Santiago's little brother. So the family went over there to be with him. His parents, which are Mr. Martinez, and he's getting out of school here pretty soon. They're doing the Halloween parade. They're trying to keep him occupied, so they're not present. That's why we're doing it the way that we are, so we can try to move it along so they get their house back. We're going to stand over there in front. Yeah. And we'll bring over the You're good. Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Andrew Toscano, and along with Mr. Brown, we will be representing the Martinez family and the Cedillo family in this horrible, tragic accident that occurred on October 23rd in Kerrville. We're presently continuing to investigate the facts and the circumstances. I have not formalized any of our complaints in a lawsuit at this point. We called the press conference today to try to give the opportunity for, obviously, the general public to get some understanding of what we're doing and what's occurred in this horrible accident. And at this point, we've sent out notices of representation to multiple parties, including the city of Kerrville, and obviously Mr. Dunnigan, who, by the way, I think it's important for the press to know, has reached out on multiple occasions and expressed his sympathy to the families that we're representing. And that, in our business, unfortunately, is rare. It doesn't occur as often as maybe it should. And so for that fact, I'm pointing out and recognizing that. At this point, the facts are still undetermined. The city of Kerrville and the Kerrville Police Department have not completed their investigation. I sent an open records request to the police department for any reports or any photographs, etc. That I was contacted by the clerk of the police department, city of Kerrville, and asked to withdraw my request at this point because they did not have any documentation that they could share with me, since they were still continuing to investigate the potentiality of criminal conduct that resulted in the deaths at this point of 3 people. At this point, we also understand another 15 total people were injured in the accident. I'm here to try to address some of the legal issues and some of the factual circumstances or questions that you might have based upon the investigation that we've been able to do at this point. Mr. Brown is going to talk a little bit more specifically about the factual scenario and the families that we're representing, who are both sets of related families. The Martinezes and the Cedillos are in-laws, and they were all present that day to enjoy Mr. Martinez's involvement in the race wars as well that morning. They had been there to enjoy this as a family event, the same way it had been billed by the Race War 2's organizers and the city of Kerrville. And so, unfortunately, at this point, we don't know whether or not there's any insurance coverage. None has been provided. No information has been provided. I've contacted the people that we were identified as being the appropriate insurers. They've told me that they are investigating coverage at this point. Mr. Dunnigan has a business attorney by the name of Greg Richard, who I've called on multiple occasions. He has not returned any of my calls. He's a business attorney there in the city of Kerrville. I've also reached out to several other of the sponsors, and I believe that they may have liability at this point. We're also investigating my own clients. Because of the lack of proof of insurance coverage, we're also investigating my own client's insurance coverage to see whether or not his policies, his personal insurance policies might be applicable in this set of circumstances, which, by the way, is quite unfortunate when such a horrible set of circumstances occurs and one has to look to their own insurance coverage to be protected for such a loss. So I know there's been multiple questions as to why it is that our intention is to file in Bexar County. That is our intention. It's our stated intention. We intend to be filing suit against multiple sponsors that have a principal place of business here in San Antonio. My clients are longtime residents of San Antonio. Mr. Martinez has been in this neighborhood. We're here in San Antonio on the south side his entire life, and this is where he chose to raise his family and his multiple children. His kids are going to school here in this neighborhood, and of course the rest of his family also make San Antonio their home. So if this time anybody has any questions about the factual scenario or about the legal aspects, I'd like to entertain those now. I also would like to express to everybody my clients' thanks for giving them the time that you guys have given them to grieve. They buried their son yesterday, and in that process they had over 40 semi-tractor trailers as well as a 3-mile long procession to the Catholic church that the Martinezes go to on a regular basis, and in the event Mr. Martinez is given the opportunity, he's expressed to us his desire to become a deacon in the Catholic Church when and if the Archbishop allows him to do so, because he's got minor children. He's been told that he has to wait until his children are 13 and he's ready to start that fight too next. So anyway, that being said, this is Mr. Brown. He's co-counsel on the case. And if anybody has any questions about the legal process or about the factual scenario of what actually occurred that day, I'm opening up to that now, and then I'll be passing it to Mr. Brown so he can talk about the family more specifically. Yes, sir.
That Mr. Martinez raced in the event?
Yes, he is a semi-tractor trailer driver, and he raced earlier that morning, did multiple passes in his semi-tractor trailer.
And you said Mr. Martinez is the father?
He is Mr. Santiago's father, yes.
Okay. And what is his full name?
Abel
Abel?
Martinez, yes. And his wife's name was Carla. Is Carla, I'm sorry. And they're Santiago's parents.
As for the liability waiver that we've heard that everyone signed, where is the legality, and are there loopholes that we're looking for? How are you addressing
Well, first of all, it's not certain that we actually signed waivers, and in the event there is a potentiality that there was waivers. There are multiple issues regarding waivers, especially with regards to children in the state of Texas, and whether or not those waivers are enforceable or unenforceable as against public policy when dealing with children. That's number one. Number two, when waivers like that are used, and oftentimes we see them in things like athletic clubs and some of these other carnivals, things like this, there are certain rules that the law requires of conspicuity, meaning that you can read them and understand them, and they express the ideas of the express negligence rule. They have to actually identify the parties that are being released and then the circumstances of that release and what's being paid for. It has to be for some consideration. So we're still investigating whether or not, and it's our position at this point that we weren't required to sign releases, and in the event there was any release, that I feel confident that we'll be able to overcome any of those potential defenses.
with those papers? You have or you haven't seen them?
I haven't seen them. I haven't even seen the form that was used. And again, my clients at this point are telling me that they did not entirely sign those releases. And so they've got to produce it first before we have to worry about how we're going to overcome that potential defense.
Right. And if so, would it have been from the company or from the county?
From what our understanding is, it was from the promoter.
Okay.
Which would have been Flying Diesel Performance at this point. I don't think the city we've read the city council, I've read the city council meetings, and this was the second event, the second race war. The first race war had been a successful event. Thank God nobody was injured in that one. I hope to God there won't be any more of those types of events that risk the general public or the people that attend. From what I've seen, I'm not sure that there was ever a safety expert that ever evaluated the process or the circumstances of how the race was to be conducted. And so we'll be investigating those issues as well as the case proceeds.
You mentioned,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you mentioned the safety issues. We've heard, seen, talked with people saying there were not barricades, but there were people there.
Sure. So it's clear from the photographs and the open source reporting that the barricade stopped at the finish line. Obviously, this was the first one to the finish line wins the potential cash award. That's the highest point. It's after the finish line that the braking starts. And so obviously that's probably more probable where any barricades should be located. It's also our understanding that, and from the family and from the people that we're representing and that were there and witnesses, that some of the barricades were not even filled with water and they were easily movable by hand. Now, obviously that's not important because the location of where this failure took place was unbarricaded. There also weren't any spectator locations set up in terms of bandstands or areas where a seating area, everybody was kind of allowed to bring their own seating and put them to a certain extent where they needed to be. We understand, and by the way, the family is absolutely thankful and grateful, and Mr. Martinez refers to them as angels for all of the first responders that appeared and took his son from his hands and attempted emergency measures, as well as his sister-in-law. They were able to be successful with his sister-in-law, and ultimately those attempts were unsuccessful with regard to his son Santiago. But he is absolutely grateful to all of those people, And on behalf of the family, I want to say thank you to every one of them, and they obviously know who they were after witnessing and being involved in such a horrible set of circumstances.
So his sister-in-law was hospitalized?
She was hospitalized. She died at 3 a.m. on Wednesday morning. Yes, this is Miss Cedillo, yes.
Right. And you said 15 people total you believe were injured. Is that in addition to those who were hospitalized?
That's including, yes, all included. One of Miss Cedillo's sons was also injured. He's got bruising on his leg, left lower extremity, and also obviously the entirety of the family were present and witnessed the entire event, which I don't know if anybody, I think the closest thing that we can talk about it in terms of PTSD and the idea of witnessing such a horrific set of circumstances is somebody that you love. This was a very close-knit family. We're in the residence that they would spend time every weekend doing barbecues and spending time together and loving each other as family. When Mr. Martinez requested that an altar be made for his son, it was done to the entirety of the size of this room by the family members, and he had to ask that if he could have a little bit of his living room back. And his little brother Mateo gave his favorite toys to his brother, who he's learning to understand well, it's not ever coming home. So any other questions that we can answer?
Can you state your name and?
Sure. My name is Andrew Toscano. I work with my father, Gene Toscano. I've been an attorney here in San Antonio since 1993. So Toscano, Toscano. And this is Mr. Brown. If you guys have any other additional questions.
I'd just like a little bit of input concerning the family. We're going to have two family members come over here and talk. Abel Martinez, who is actually Santiago's older brother. He's the third, so he's the son of Abel and Carla, who's going to come talk on behalf of the family, as well as Tanya Flores, who is the sister-in-law to Rebecca Cedillo, who we just discussed, unfortunately passed away early morning of Wednesday. She was going through some surgery procedures and unfortunately did not make it.
What we understand is that they all suffered severe crush injuries. They were all pinned to the vehicle trailer that they were upon watching the event when the Ford Mustang lost control and careened into them. It's our understanding, after talking to the family, my clients, that Miss Cedillo and Santiago had stepped down from the trailer and that they were proceeding to the concession area exactly at the moment when the Ford Mustang lost control. Obviously was going at an obviously high rate of speed, had racing tires on it. Mr. Martinez, who is a racer, refers to it as Dr. Pepper, and it's a accelerant that they spray onto the tires to make sure the tires don't lose control on the airport tarmac or on the roadway that they're being used on. He's suspicious of whether or not nitrous oxide was also to blame because of the amount of speed, and also obviously the training of the driver, who we understand is a resident of Fort Worth and is being also named in the lawsuit. We understand that he suffered injuries because of the impact to the trailer and the other vehicles at the scene. I'm not sure what his condition is, but I'm sure he never ever intended that something horrible like this happened. But that's something that can be said about everybody, including the promoters and all the people that were involved in it. But unfortunately, that's not a legal excuse to negligently supervise and invite people to your location and put them in circumstances that we refer to as a zone of danger that resulted in the losses that unfortunately the Cedillo and the Martinez families have suffered here.
You mentioned he's named in the lawsuit. Can you, forgive me if I missed this, can you name who's in the lawsuit again?
Well, I'd rather wait until it's formalized because I'm investigating multiple potential parties, but the driver of the vehicle was he was a resident of Fort Worth. There's also an owner of the vehicle that's been identified, and I think you can find his name in open source reporting. I don't have the lawsuit in front of me. I've been working on it, but at the same time, I'm just a little nervous about the circumstances. There are issues of governmental immunity with regards to the city of Kerrville and the county of Kerr. There's other issues that are that I'm looking at, and that I'm trying to make sure that we're careful about. And the last thing that my clients need is to be to suffer any more than what they already have because of some issue or some problem with the legal process.
In terms of liability, now the airport's owned by the Kerr County, right?
Yes, sir.
So where does the city of Kerrville come in?
City of Kerrville actually gave a permit, and there are multiple sets of city council meetings where this this event was approved by the city council, and they gave permits and permission to use. It's from what our understanding is that the airport is both a city county province, and so there are two sets of meeting minutes that I've been able to read and review, whereby the city council addressed Race Wars 1 and 2 and gave permission to use it and to be involved in it. And so obviously whether or not it was a proprietary function, a governmental function, and whether or not immunity applies will be something that we'll be investigating as the case progresses.
So the lawsuit hasn't actually been filed, I just want to make sure.
I haven't filed it because at this point I was kind of, I still haven't gotten any confirmation that there's any insurance coverage from anybody. Although Mr. Dunnigan has been very, very helpful and forthright, I haven't had any contact with his legal counsel. And obviously as an attorney, I don't have a right, and I shouldn't. It's against all rules for me to be talking to Mr. Dunnigan, although he's on multiple occasions reached out to the family to express his condolences and his sympathy.
Any idea on a timeline when this could be?
Yeah, probably within the next week or so. We just got some additional information today that we're investigating to determine whether or not my client's own policies of insurance might be applicable, and that's something that we just got today. I've been trying also to give my clients some time to grieve. This is going to be a lifelong process in terms of their grieving process, but you know, any kind of injury hurts the most the very first day you suffer it, and this has been less than a week.
Abogado, ¿habla español?
Sí, yo puedo
¿Puede
hablar.
explicar un poco de esta demanda, este proceso?
Sí,
¿Qué va a pasar?
sí.
¿Contra quién?
Sí, no puedo decir exactamente contra de quién ahorita porque todavía estamos investigando todo. Probablemente vamos a poner los papeles, la demanda en corte entre una semana más o menos.
¿Usted vio las imágenes, las fotografías, los videos del accidente?
Casi.
¿Qué le dicen?
Sí, sí, un poco, no todo está en inglés que yo revisé y no tenemos todo. Por eso todavía estamos investigando todo, estamos pidiendo de la ciudad todo el reporte que ellos tienen, la policía y todo eso. No he recibido nada de la policía, de su reporte de la policía ni nada de eso.
¿Los organizers están en contacto con usted?
No podemos hablar con ellos porque tienen abogados. Ya mandamos papeles a ellos que dicen que estamos representando las familias y todo eso. Y estamos esperando una respuesta de ellos. ¿Ok?
Mi pregunta era, ¿usted vio las fotografías del
Sí.
accidente? ¿Qué le dicen? ¿Qué vio usted? ¿Había una falla de la seguridad ahí?
Sí, no había como barricades, como está diciendo señor Toscano, no había después del finish line, ¿me entiendes eso? Por eso había un problema con la seguridad de las personas que estaban allí, porque había personas después del finish line, ¿me entiendes?
¿No hay responsabilidad de la ciudad de Kerrville por no poner
Tal vez
policías ahí?
estamos investigando eso también. Okay. And just to finish, before I introduce the family members who are going to come talk, Santiago Martinez, 8-year-old, incredible kid. He was well liked if anybody was at the services. As Mr. Toscano said, there was numerous people. There were people from all over the country who came for his services. I believe there was over 200 people in attendance. He was well liked by everybody at his school. We were talking to the family this morning, and they were creating awards for him because he was such an incredible kid and he just went above and beyond. He was well liked. They were talking about you know, him being able to have conversations with the teachers about history issues and so forth, and they created a new award for him just recently, as in the last 2 weeks. It was called the Historical Award, and he was given this, and it was the first honorary recipient of this particular award. He was a great kid, loved by his family, As Mr. Toscano said, it is a very close-knit family. They would have barbecues, their families would come together and go to different functions together. He's got brothers and sisters his brother's getting ready to talk on his behalf here in just a minute. Just an incredible kid. Miss Rebecca Cedillo was a sister-in-law to the Martinez family. Again, very close-knit, was actually taking Santiago, as Mr. Toscano said, to go get something from the concession stand, and at that split second, that's when the car came over, lost control, and ended up in the stands where they were situated. I mean, it was just a split second deal. He got off the trailer, and the incident occurred. I believe that it fully could have been prevented had the barriers gone above and beyond the finish line. Obviously, they stopped at the finish line. There were spectators that were sitting beyond the finish line with no protection, which it should have raised numerous red flags at that point in time. The family has set up a couple of GoFundMe accounts, and there's some pictures associated with that. I know there were some questions about using those photos. They're agreeable to allowing those photos to be used in any of the photos here at the altar. In memory of Santiago, and then also Miss Cedillo is contained in one of the pictures. They want him to be remembered as the beautiful young child that he was, a loving child, God-fearing child. They asked that if you could please put the GoFundMes out there in your articles, in your press releases, because obviously, as you know, this is something that's totally unexpected. As a parent, you're not wired to anticipate burying your child. That's got to be the most difficult thing to do. Mr. Toscano has 2 8-year-old sons. I have an 8-year-old daughter. I can't even imagine what this family is going through concerning the burial of their child. So we would ask that y'all, and they're the 2 sanctioned GoFundMes, the picture of Santiago in one of them, and then the picture of Miss Cedillo in the other. So we ask that y'all please put a link to those for the family's sake, to help cover some of these costs and expenses that they're incurring right now. I'm going to ask Abel to go ahead and come on up here. Abel?
One last thing about the GoFundMe pages. I think it's important, and Mr. Martinez asked that I make sure that everybody understand that the last thing he wants to see is anybody making profit off of the loss of his son or the loss of his sister-in-law. And so any other attempts at raising money besides these 2 family authorized GoFundMe pages will be vigorously prosecuted by the family. I've been instructed to do that, and that's why any other attempts by anybody trying to represent the family besides these 2 GoFundMe pages that Mr. Brown has identified will not be tolerated. So again, thank you for everybody coming, and again, I think it's important that everybody recognize the losses that this tight-knit family has suffered, and to the extent that you guys can give them space during this trying time, we'd appreciate it. So here's Mr. Martinez III.
Do you guys have any questions, or you just want me to start talking?
Just go ahead and talk.
I don't really know what to start. I mean, there's a lot to say. I tried not to cry, but it's really hard every time I start talking about it. I miss him so much. I'm gonna miss him forever. I know one day I'll see him, but I feel like that day is too far away. He was an amazing little brother. That kid always made me laugh. I don't know how. He was grateful for everything, and I was not that grateful at his age. I don't know how my parents did it. They raised an amazing young little boy. It's pretty funny. I don't live here anymore because when COVID hit, I had to move out because I also work. I'm a truck driver, and I didn't want to bring anything onto my family unwanted by accident or not. So it was fine. It was totally an equal decision. It wasn't like they kicked me out or I chose to move out and they found a place for me. It was really nice. But my dad told me, he was like, "I'm so sorry. We made you, you had to leave the last year and a half before your brother's gone. And it's nobody's fault. It's just part of life, part of growing up. But I really didn't get to see him that often. I worked too much sometimes. I saw him on the weekends for sure, and during the week, every time I passed by, I always stopped and every time I passed by my 18-wheeler, they'd be playing outside and they'd see me immediately and start raising and waving and I'd honk, and it was always the highlight of my day, just seeing them outside. And I loved them because I knew that they were growing up. They had to do their own growing up to do. I have a lot of brothers. A lot of them are older now, but Mateo and Santiago were always together forever. And Mateo's 5, Santiago was 8, and they were best friends. And so I knew they were going to be okay together. So I don't know what it was. I guess I felt fine that they were taking care of each other. And every time I passed by, I wanted to let them do some growing up together so they understand what brotherhood was like, as I was with my brothers. And I definitely saw them as much as I could, but I felt like it just wasn't enough. And the most beautiful thing is that I didn't get to see him this past weekend. I was planning to see him Saturday after the races. And I told him, I made a deal with him. He had a tooth in his mouth that he didn't want to pull out for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I told him, I was like, you need to pull that tooth out. It's sticking out. Your lips are already starting to stick up. And I told him if he'd pull it out, I'd give him anything he wanted. And he wanted some Krispy Kreme donuts and raw cookie dough because he loves sweets, loves candies. But the night before, he called me. I don't know why. He usually doesn't. He doesn't have a phone. He called me on my mom's phone. I answered immediately thinking it was my mom. He asked me what I was doing, and we talked for about 10-15 minutes, and I enjoyed that phone call. I didn't think it'd be the last time. I really didn't think it'd be the last time. I wish I could have talked to him longer, but that kid could talk for hours. He taught me more than I learned at school, probably. And anytime I was wrong, he let me know. But that's what I loved about him. He was amazing and smart. I don't know how. Everybody says their kids are smart, but that kid was unique. There were some things I don't know how he learned, but he knew. And I don't know. It's just so hard. I just try to remember all the good things about him only, and that's really all I have of him. I can't help but smile. That kid was almost never angry. Never mad, and if he did something wrong, he always said he was sorry, and he never tried to hurt anybody, and he always told Mateo to be respectful, and to never hit any of our brothers, always protect each other, and even when I was gone, he always protected Mateo, Nana, my little sister. She's 2 years old. He always looked after them. That's why he wanted to become a knight, because he said he wanted to take care of the queen. And I guess I felt good knowing that he was protecting them and he was watching over them. But I just wish I would have saw him more often. Man. I'm gonna miss him.
How many siblings did he have?
Santiago? Oh man. Well, there's Ana Maria, that's his little sister, 2 years old. Mateo, which is his best friend. He's 5 years old. Santiago was 8. He was about to turn 9 in December. It's me, my little brother Steven, Jose, and Miguel. I usually don't count them, but I know them by heart.
How old are you?
I'm 23.
Someone who also has a little brother with a big age gap in between, I can empathize. There's nothing like that bond of watching them grow up. I can just tell this is very emotional. It's very hard to relive all of this. But do you have a message for the public who is really rallied for your family? And for you guys?
First, thank you for all the support. We showed it. Everybody showed it yesterday. I think he would have loved it. The train of cars and all the trucks. It was a last minute notice at first. They didn't, I was letting my parents do whatever they wanted to do. If they wanted a lot of trucks to show up, that was up to them. If they didn't want anybody to show up, it's totally up to them. They always did what was best for everybody. And somehow or another, they always did the right thing. But last minute, they decided, you know what? We're going to send him out with a bang, the way he loved to be living. Always happy, and he loved the trucks. That's what my dad started doing them more and more. It was only recent that they started going to races. and he really didn't want them to go, but my family wanted to be with him, and they hated that he'd be gone the weekends, and that was their time, so they started creating family events and barbecuing and cooking, and they decided to go together that weekend, and when they went together, they just wouldn't think it'd be end like that.
I also can't help but notice you're wearing blue, and I know you guys said blue is his favorite color.
That's his favorite color. It's real hard not to wear it. I was gonna wear red, but that's Mateo's favorite color, and I was like, you know what? You get your day another day. Today is for Santiago. And,
You mentioned the trucking, and we know that that's such a passion for your whole family. Can you just touch on that? You, your dad, and obviously Santiago.
Since before I can remember, since we were small, my dad, so he started. He said he had me at 17, and back then he used to make $3 an hour, and he said he don't know how he did it, but he always had me in Pampers, and he said that was the most expensive thing back then. But growing up, it's helped our family. It's got about us in tough times. It's definitely been slow. It's been fast. It's a wild ride, but I think Santiago loved it all the time. It was definitely different. It's a different lifestyle. It really is, but we love the fact that we're able to stay local. So we come home every day. That's the number one thing. Over the road is hard. I have an appreciation for those guys too. I don't know how they can stay away from their families for so long, 3 weeks, only back for 1 week a month. That's little time.
Your father's a professional truck driver?
Yes. Yes, he's driven all his life up until he didn't have to, and he actually helped me get my license, and he gave me my own truck, my first truck, and he's helping me try to get going, and I'm trying to do everything I've learned. All through high school, he made me become a mechanic and fix everything that's broken, and now whenever I break something, I have an idea on how to fix it. And I gotta say it's because of him. And even now, he didn't want us to do it. He always says, I never want you guys to become truck drivers. I want you guys to go to school and become nurses, doctors, lawyers. And he always said he hated truck driving because it wasn't the right life. He wanted us to be in air conditioning, AC, in our office. He wanted us to be living nice, living the right way. But sometimes things just happen, and we're just trucking. It's something a lot of the family members do. My grandpa does it, my uncles do it, everybody does it. And we all try to help each other whenever we can. But sometimes it's hard.
When you take a look at the beautiful Altair Memorial for the
It made me so happy when they made it. I didn't know, but my dad put it together the day after immediately. He went straight to it. That was the first thing he thought of. And the hardest part was try to explain to Mateo why we're putting Santiago's favorite toys up here. And he helped me pick them out because he spent the most time with them, and I want to make sure he remembers his best friend forever.
How do you hope people remember Santiago?
What was that?
How do you hope people remember Santiago?
First of all, we're never going to stop talking about him. I'd rather be open about him than be socially awkward and not bring him up. I want to bring him up as much as I can because he was and he still is my little brother. And I'm going to miss him so much, but I'll see him one day. I just wish that day wasn't so far away.
I'm gonna let Abel step back, if y'all don't mind, and I'm gonna have Tanya come talk. Thank you,
Thank you.
Abel. Thank you. And this is Tanya Flores. She's the sister-in-law to Rebecca Cedillo, and she wants
And
to.
also, I'm the aunt of Santiago.
And to Santiago.
He was an amazing boy. Always happy, always making questions about everything. A very, very lovely child. And Rebecca Cedillo, she's my sister-in-law, but not my sister-in-law, she's my sister. And I'm gonna always love her and miss her. And now we take care of her kids as she did it before. We're gonna miss her forever. And I don't know, this is very hard to talk about it because that just happened. Sometimes we can understand why, but I believe in God and I know that's a purpose for everything of this. And now we're gonna be more like together on this, we're gonna be a family more complete without them, because they're gonna be here forever. They're not gonna be never forgotten. And also, I don't know, I have no words to express how I feel right now. Especially because I know my sister, I know her pain, and I love her, and I would do everything for her so she doesn't have to pass all this. Especially for my brother too and my nephews. But we're gonna be here for them. They will never be forgotten.
¿Puedo preguntar en español?
Sí, claro que sí.
Para quienes no los conocimos, ni a Rebeca ni a Santiago, ¿cómo la gente los debe de conocer, reconocer o recordar como personas?
A Santiago lo debemos recordar como un niño bondadoso. Él siempre estaba pensando por los demás. Él siempre en sus oraciones pedía por todos los niños del mundo que tuvieran comida en su mesa, que no les faltara nada. Cada año en diciembre ellos van a Nueva Rosita, Coahuila, donde somos originarios nosotros, a una casa hogar, y llevaban juguetes a todos los niños de la casa hogar. Mi hermana pedía la lista de los niños que tenían para llevar un juguete especial para cada quien. Y ese era Santiago. Santiago, él encantaba dar todo a la gente. Inclusive si venían ahorita, por ejemplo, ya estuviera repartiéndoles a ustedes algo para que se llevaran, aunque fuera un dulce, una galleta, algo. Él siempre fue así. Fue un niño muy alegre, le encantaban las festividades, Navidad, Halloween, todo, porque su familia siempre estaba junta y podía jugar con todos sus primos y podía disfrutar de ellos, y siempre estaba contento, siempre estaba corriendo, brincando, haciendo 1000 preguntas. Él se maravillaba de todo, pero no le gustaba que le dieran besos, porque teníamos virus las gentes y él no le gusta eso. Él siempre se estaba lavando sus manitas, lavando su carita, porque si salía a jugar afuera, entraba y se bañaba, porque ya estuvo afuera y hay virus afuera. Era un niño excepcional, un niño maravilloso, único, y siempre lo vamos a recordar con mucho amor, como a él le gustaba vivir, alegre. Es muy duro, estamos sufriendo, pero al mismo tiempo tratamos de mantenernos fuertes, porque a él no le gustaría vernos llorar, a él no le gustaría vernos tristes. Y yo sé que él desde allá, desde donde quiera que él se encuentre, él está con nosotros y nos está mandando esa fuerza que él tenía, esa alegría que él tenía por vivir. Y Rebeca era una persona maravillosa. Ella siempre estaba dispuesta a ayudarnos a todos, no importaba qué pasara. Me ayudó muchas veces con mis niños, para que yo tenía cosas que hacer, ella los cuidaba. Con mi mamá iba a visitarla siempre estaba pendiente que necesitaba. Va a ser muy difícil, porque yo la llamaba prácticamente a diario. Inclusive esta mañana estaba viendo mi teléfono y sentía esa necesidad de hablar con ella. Ella ha estado conmigo prácticamente siempre, en las buenas, en las malas, siempre me apoyó a mi familia. Con los niños de mi hermana también siempre estaba aquí si necesitábamos hacer algo, salir a una cita del doctor, ahora que están todas estas restricciones. Ella, no te preocupes, yo los cuido. Siempre fuimos una familia unida, de ver nuestros niños como propios. Los niños de ella, yo siempre se lo he dicho a ella, yo los he visto como mis hijos, al igual que los niños de mi hermana. Entonces, todo esto es algo muy difícil. Estamos pasando un momento muy difícil, pero al mismo tiempo siento que nos estamos uniendo aún más como familia. Y me siento tan mal de que no la pude ver, no pude despedirme de ella, pero ella sabe cuánto la amo. Lo mismo mi niño, mi cachetón, él siempre va a saber cuánto lo amé. Y él siempre me llamaba mi titania, y yo era su tía favorita. Él siempre decía que yo era su tía favorita, porque yo siempre le decía que sí a todo. Él decía, tía, quiero esto, sí. Y siempre decía, mi mami siempre me dice que no y no me deja comer dulces, pero tú sí me dejas. era todo lo que... Yo siempre he consentido mucho a mis sobrinos, a todos. Y mi cachetón no era la excepción. Yo siempre, siempre lo voy a tener en mi corazón. Y yo sé que desde donde él está con nosotros. Y sé también que el día de ayer él disfrutó todo lo que se hizo para él. Y desde donde él estuvo, yo sé que él estaba feliz, regocijándose de ver tanta gente que lo ama de verdad. Y nunca nos vamos a olvidar.
Tanya, I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
You were at the event?
Yeah, no,
Oh, you
no,
weren't
I wasn't there.
Okay.
How many
No.
children does she have?
Who? Rebecca? She got 2 kids. Angel, 15 years old, and Susan, she's 12. That's the only kids that she has.
Okay, thank you so much for talking to us.
Can you tell us about how something I wanted to give to the children in Mexico, what you just said in Spanish, how you had a big heart for everybody?
Well, they always bring something for the kids in the orphanage. Kids, clothes, toys or clothes or whatever they can. And now they want to help all the kids as we used to do. It is a very, very hard right now time in Mexico, you know, and we are that type of persons that like to help others. And especially Santiago, he always were like that. So right now that's what we're trying to do, to keep helping the people over there.
Can you tell us how you frequently call how it hurts you not to make that phone call?
Suho.
Oh, Rebecca, in the mornings they want to do it in English, because what you said
Oh
in
yeah,
Spanish.
I used to call her every single morning. After I drop my kids to school, I always call her to see how you doing. You know, the day is tough. But now I feel so bad because I'm not gonna be able to talk to her anymore. This morning I was doing my stuff at home and I got my phone and I feel like I want to call her, but she's not gonna answer. So, you know, it is so hard. And I want to say thank you to everyone, family and friends. I have been having so many messages and calls from all my friends, my family. I just want to say thank you. And if you have your kids, just love them and enjoy your kids as much as you can. Even your family, all your family, you just have to enjoy your life because you never know when it's going to be the last time that you see them.
I think that's a good end right there. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you.
Keep talking.
You mentioned, can you look at the month? We're having trouble.
I'll send it.
Okay. Do you have my email?
No, you have
My card? I don't
Just right when this is-
Yeah, you're not, is that what they say?